Generally, I've just found it a lot better. It's probably the most I've committed to a language app.
Oh wow, okay.
So my name's Dave, 30 years old. Engineering manager is probably the closest. I've done a lot of traveling with work, so the last couple of years sort of traveled all over the world, and last year I was fortunate enough to go to Japan for like 6 weeks. That kind of drove me and my partner to be like, we've never really been somewhere we liked that much, where we're like, okay, let's see what we need to do to move there. And then realise, obviously, speaking Japanese is the biggest barrier to actually people getting you into the country. Everything else I've found where I've been trying to learn, I've just found really difficult to get on board with. Whereas I think like the VR aspects of this and just the lesson structure and things like that, it's just really vibed with me. And I think mentally, it's kind of like a bit of a weird escape because like, you are completely immersed in that sort of environment. I guess, yeah, like on the neurodivergent spectrum of it, so I've got like some form of ADHD. For me, trying to learn languages and stuff like that, I get distracted really, really quickly by pretty much anything. So having that like sort of full immersion where I physically can't, it just kind of removes my phone, it removes everything else. Like I can't see emails pop up and all that sort of stuff. So it kind of allows me to be like fully in it and really like the structure of the lessons in the sense that it's not. So I think when I've done private tutoring or lessons before, it's been like an hour of really intense, like these are all the months, these are all the days, these are all the seasons, you know, this is how I say what day it is kind of thing. And it's quite overwhelming and I don't find it that practical. Whereas with this, kind of feel like the structure where it's like sort of 10 to 20 minutes of sort of coverage, sort of understanding the lesson. And then obviously you got the exercises and the games and the little songs. It just makes everything stick loads more. Yeah, I just find the structure of it a lot better, I think, than basically anything else I used. The app feels really professional, like it doesn't feel like an early stage app. The general structure of it I really like. And the fact that the lessons are completely in Japanese as well.
Yeah.
I think that makes it quite different. It's quite fun sort of being sat in a primary school. Or like feels like you're in a primary school again. It just feels quite practical. And it's sort of like, obviously, komodo wa, you know, you're talking about your family. Wa doesn't really make sense in English, but that little intro video you get at the beginning, that kind of clears that up to be like, okay, but it's just explained really simply. In a way, I think that just makes it a lot more accessible. The way that she does it, obviously you can tell she's a really experienced teacher because the way that she explains it is in a really easy to understand way without overdoing it and overcomplicating things. The little speaking exercise at the end where obviously you've gone around and spoke to a load of students in different places in Japan, which is also quite nice because I recognise is it Ueno Zoo? Yeah, I recognise it. I was like, oh, that takes me back. It was really nice. But it's quite nice because obviously you also hear different voices. So I think it's quite, I don't know, of like the classic thing of like when you learn languages, you hear a video excerpt from someone, but unless you're talking on the phone, I find it quite difficult to sort of connect with. Like I kind of rely a lot on like visual cues. So I think it's like it just feels a bit more practical. I really like this way of doing it, just kind of threw you in as kind of like the immersive way of doing it. I imagine replicates how you learn as a kid. Like you're not born speaking English or Japanese or whatever, you're just immersed around it and you make the connections yourself because you have to.
Yeah.
Whereas I think sometimes like when it's broken up a little bit, that's why I really like the intro lessons, the intro videos.
Yeah.
So they're quite short to the point. They tell you what you're going to cover, so you kind of got a bit of knowledge and a bit of basis around what you're doing. But you can also tell in the videos, for me anyway, obviously like I know I'm like a 3D camera sat there, but you can tell you're actually learning it at the same time. Like it's not a performative piece. Like you're actually there doing the lessons alongside, and I think that makes a massive difference. You know, like in a classroom where you got, I don't know, say like a load of kids in the classroom, and there's someone that probably asks a question that you're thinking. That happens quite a lot. So like, you know, when you say like to, when you be and, you're like, just checking to is and, stuff like that. It makes it a lot easier to buy into as well, because I think sometimes especially with VR stuff, when it's a bit too, when everything's a bit too like mystical and magical, when you're like floating around in a galaxy and all that stuff, it's cool, but it's really distracting from what you're actually probably trying to do. To the point you'll get bored with it because you'll run the novelty wear out. dynamic languages, especially when you do the sort of speaking at the end, and is you bring stuff up from like 5 lessons ago. And so like you build up that sort of sentence and you have to remember, be like, I can't remember what this word is, but then it kind of comes back. And then obviously you got the little hinty button where you can kind of cheat, but it doesn't always help you, especially when it's like an open-ended answer, like so how many people you got in your family or that sort of thing. It's a really cool way of learning in a way that people our age, this kind of tech wasn't available. It feels like you've got private tuition. Even if you go to night school and stuff like that and this kind of thing, you're still in a room with 10, 15 other people, all that have their own way of trying to understand things, learn things, which is good. Like, it's always good to have a different range of voices, but I think when you're sort of trying to aim towards a specific goal, it just takes things a lot longer. It can make things take a lot longer for things to sink in. It kind of feels like a little mini test at the end when you're actually you're like, oh, okay, I'm actually in Japan talking to like actually Japanese people. Yeah, it is. You just hear different voices and you hear different people speak with different speech patterns. I think, I can't remember what his name is. Is it Toro?
Tatsu in the orange t-shirt.
Yeah, with the cardigan.
Yeah.
He speaks significantly faster than the other two. So there's only one little bit where I'm like, right, I've really got to concentrate on what this guy's saying. But I think it's quite good though, because obviously that's actually what's going to happen. I had a catch up with a Japanese colleague I worked with, and I was sort of just having a general catch up with him and saying, I was starting to learn using VR, and then I said some stuff. And he was like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. I think the first few were quite nostalgic, so I'd actually been to the places. So it was like quite nice to go back there. It was quite cool with the kind of the context around a bit of history about what you're looking at as well. Because that is something, I don't know if you found this when you were in Japan, but like you go to a shrine, there's no English translations for anything in context. So I'll be staring at something and be like, that looks really nice, but I'm sure it's very significant, but I don't know why. When you look at the last lesson, where like the subjects that you're meant to be covering in terms of, I can't remember what it is, but it seems like quite a complex subject from where you start. I'm like, how do we get from there to there in 40 lessons? But seeing the progression from the first few, it feels like it's actually an achievable thing. Whereas I think other apps I've seen to be like, okay, you go from counting to talking about your future dreams and hopes and aspirations, and it's like, okay, yeah, there's no connection here. This is genuinely like the first app I've ever used or tool I've used to try and learn a language where I've actually felt like a level of immersion that feels practical. As a tool, I just think it's a really, really like good way of doing it.